Do you even know where you are? You shouldn't be here. You're the family's embarrassment. Just go home. Grace, adorned in a pure white wedding dress, sneered as she spoke. Behind her stood Dad, not even bothering to hide his disgust. I shouldn't have come. I was foolish to think of attending Grace's wedding. With my back turned, I faced the reality of our worst reunion in 10 years. I was ready to leave then and there, completely unaware of the drama that was about to unfold at the wedding. What does freedom mean? I've been asking myself this question my whole life. My name is Natalie, born as the second daughter to the president of a well-established company. Mom, Penelope, is passive and always under the thumb of Dad, Isaac. No surprise there. Dad's a strict man, obsessed with excellence. To be the best, my sister and I were raised in a demanding environment. Tied down with constant lessons and studies, we hardly had time to be kids. Friends were out of the question, and so was dressing up. It was a stifling life. As a child, I tried hard to meet Dad's high expectations, sacrificing all my time to aim for his standard of always being the best. But I never quite made the cut. Never excelled in academics or sports. Every day, my failures were pointed out by teachers. Witnessing this, Dad would yell, "Why can't you do better?" making me feel miserable. In stark contrast, Grace was exceptional at everything she did. Always top of the class, excellent in sports, and praised in extracurricular activities. She was the perfect overachiever, the epitome of Dad's mantra, always the best. So there it was, the superior sister and the mediocre one. A life of constant comparison and scrutiny. Longing for freedom but unable to express it, I had no choice but to live as told. Even though I was trying my hardest to be the person my dad wanted me to be, a pivotal moment happened that made him give up on me. High school entrance exams. My older sister Grace had already started high school. She'd gotten into a prestigious private school, sailing through the application review and acing the interview. Dad then ordered me to follow suit and take the exam for the same school. It was a tough school, way out of my league, but I studied hard, skimping on sleep to follow Dad's orders. In the end, all my efforts were for nothing. I failed the admission test. The moment I saw the results, I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. I managed to get into another well-known private school, but Dad wouldn't have it. "You're a real disappointment," he said. From that day on, he acted as if I didn't exist. Because Dad treated me that way, Grace became cold toward me too. "You're a disgrace to the family. Stay out of my sight," she said. We stopped doing activities together, and Dad said nothing about it. I knew then that I had been completely abandoned. The only one in the family who still talked to me was Mom, but even she ignored me when Dad was around. Once Dad caught us talking. "Don't waste your time!" He scolded Mom, looking at me as if I were trash. Mom looked distressed, but said nothing. I felt there was no place for me in this family. What is family, anyway? If I can't meet their expectations, do I not even have the right to exist? I pondered these things throughout my high school years. As high school graduation approached, I chose to enter the workforce without second thought. I'd rather be on my own, in a place where no one knows me, than stay in a family like this. I searched for jobs without consulting my family, but Mom noticed and secretly recommended me to a resort hotel run by an acquaintance. I could work there and live on site, so I went for an interview and got the job. I hadn't expected it to be stricter than my family, but I soon realized I was wrong. "We'll train you rigorously. Stick with it," said the owner, a woman who was a friend of Mom's and slightly older, but she didn't look her age and she had a strong presence. Her training was tough, and I came to realize the difficulties of customer service. Each day involved rigorous instruction from the owner. Working under the owner's strict guidance was eye-opening about the challenges of customer service. Every day was a lesson in toughness from the owner. I had some experience dressing formally while living at home, but constantly wearing a uniform resembling formal attire while hustling around required more physical stamina than I had anticipated. "Don't look tired when you see guests off. Always smile." I was often reprimanded for my disheveled appearance after bed making and tidying up, and I even hurt my back once. Despite working twice as much as me, the owner always seemed radiant. She was rushing just like me, but I never saw her posture falter. Always be aware of how you present yourself. Concentrate hard so you don't make the customers uncomfortable. Yes. The training was harsh, but I put to use the endurance I had developed at home, mastering the skills and knowledge for the job. Feeling a small joy when something I couldn't do yesterday becomes possible today. Faithfully delivering to customers what the owner taught me. I heard this routine every day, but as I kept at it, I began to occasionally hear from the customers themselves. Natalie, the customer earlier said you provided excellent service. Keep it up. Being praised by the owner moved me in a way I had never felt before. For the first time, I felt a sense of fulfillment and recognition that I never felt back home. At that moment, I was thankful to Mom. Without her support, I would never have found this job. I'll do my best. I found a sense of accomplishment in this job that I had never felt before. Around 10 years after leaving home, I got a message from Mom saying, Grace is getting married. I hadn't been in touch with Dad or Grace since I left. I hadn't even shown my face back home, but I had been in contact with Mom once or twice a year. I was slightly surprised because Mom hadn't mentioned that Grace was engaged, but honestly, I didn't really care. I won't attend. Dad and Grace will probably not want me there. I didn't tell Mom. I don't want to see them either. Don't say that. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event, and I want to see you, Natalie. I tried to decline multiple times, but ended up reluctantly agreeing after Mom persuaded me. The venue was a top-tier luxury hotel. Probably Dad's doing, I thought. The groom Samuel was the son of a CEO of a top-tier company. Clearly someone Dad would like. The attendees were the type Dad would approve of. The event was extremely lavish. As much as I wanted to avoid them, when I entered the green room to greet them, both Dad and Grace glared at me with contempt. It was clear they despised my presence. I expected it, so I didn't care. However, Mom, who had invited me, tried to smooth things over. I invited Natalie because it's a special ceremony. I wanted the whole family to celebrate together. Why did you come? There's no seat or meal for you, Natalie. Ignoring Mom's feelings, Grace was cold towards me. Her attitude had worsened since we last met. Do you even know where you are? This isn't a place for someone like you. So who is allowed here? Is there a rule that says only those approved by Dad can be here? Replacing the silent Dad, Grace continued to spew hateful comments. Then she dropped the last straw. The family disgrace should just leave. Fine, I'll go. I shouldn't have come. I knew this would happen. Regretting my decision to come, I heard, Natalie, wait! I want to talk to you more. Can you wait for me at that cafe for a bit? The mom who followed me seemed to have shrunk since the last time I saw her. I felt a sense of nostalgia looking at her aged appearance. I was happy to see my mom after so long. I decided to kill time in the hotel cafe, just like she told me to. There were no other customers in the cafe where the ceremony was being held. Sitting alone, I listened to the sounds coming from the ceremony hall. Even though I was away from the venue, I could hear the background music and sense the ceremony's progress. The liveliness of the venue contrasted sharply with the silence in the cafe, making me feel miserable. What am I doing here? Sorry, Mom, but I really should leave. I never wanted to attend in the first place. Deciding to act, I head to the waiting room to inform my mom that I'll be leaving, just as they're preparing for the reception. That's when I heard voices that didn't suit a wedding ceremony. Peeking into the waiting room, I saw Samuel and Grace arguing with the planner. The planner also seemed flustered. Your mistake will affect our reputation. Fix it! We didn't. The ceremony is already underway. From the conversation, it seemed that the chairman of a major client company of Samuel's firm had suddenly decided to come give his greetings at the wedding. They hadn't prepared any meals for him since he was initially unable to attend due to a business trip. They confronted the planner, urging them to find a solution. Good for them, I thought. They're learning the hard way that not everything can be prepared at the last minute. The planner would likely want to accommodate the changes, but the ceremony had already started, making it difficult. Both my dad and mom were engaged in the conversation, making it impossible to interrupt. I should slip away in this chaos, I thought. But there, right in front of me, was the planner, overwhelmed by various people. I can't let this wedding fail at my hotel. Hey, wait a second. Natalie, you're still here? Get out! Grace yelled at my sudden appearance. But at that moment, the planner's face, which had been pale from being cornered, lit up. "Manager!" At that word, even Grace, who had been yelling, looked surprised. That's right, I am the manager of this hotel. I oversee all of our hotels, as I was put in charge after the resort hotel I first worked at expanded its operations. The planner being cornered was my subordinate, Claire. Ignoring the surprised Grace, Dad, and Mom, I gave instructions to Claire. "Claire, prepare a seat quickly. As for the food, the ceremony hall kitchen alone can't handle it, right? Tell me the menu." Upon hearing the instructions, Claire immediately sprang into action. She handed me the menu for the dishes to be served at the ceremony and headed to the venue to prepare the seating. Once I saw that the venue setup was underway, I took a look at the menu. Because the meals for the ceremony are by reservation only, I doubted anything could be changed. So I headed to the restaurant that's part of our hotel. After consulting with the chef, he agreed to prepare the meals, solving the problem right away. Although we can't offer the same dishes as everyone else, I'm confident no one will be disappointed with the high-end cuisine from our hotel's restaurant. Well, that settles it. We're good to go. As I conveyed this, Dad and Grace had complex expressions, but Samuel and Mom were absolutely delighted. "Thank you so much for everything." Samuel energetically shook my hand, expressing his gratitude. His family also took turns thanking me, which made me feel somewhat embarrassed. "Come on, Isaac and Grace, you should thank Natalie too. She's the reason everything's okay now." Upon hearing this, Dad and Grace reluctantly nodded at me with complex expressions. Then Samuel's family left. "We have to get ready to welcome the chairman." Dad and Mom also left to join them in greeting. Now, only Grace and I remained in the room. The room turned eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the bustle just moments ago. As I tried to leave the room to escape the awkward atmosphere, I heard unexpected words. "I envy Natalie." Turning around in surprise, I found Grace looking at me, her face strained. "You were so full of life earlier, Natalie." Looking at Grace, I was reminded of, bound by Dad, living a life devoid of freedom, struggling to meet Dad's expectations. Grace wore the same expression I once did. "I may be the supposed successor, but I can't defy Dad. I feel like I have no say in anything." I realized only now that Grace felt the same way as I did. She looked like the capable older sister, but she was actually struggling to meet expectations. "It must be nice, Natalie, being away from Dad, being free." Hearing that, I realized my freedom came at the expense of Grace. Had Grace not been there, even if I'd failed the exams, I would have been forced to become the person Dad wanted me to be. Because Grace was there, it was okay for me to be gone. It was okay to pour all the expectations into the one who remained, Grace. I gained my freedom by being cast away by Dad, but in doing so, I let Grace shoulder all of Dad's expectation. Grace envied my freedom. Perhaps that's why, meeting her today after 10 years, she seemed colder than before. But still, the outside world isn't as free as you think, and it's very harsh. In that world, without relying on anyone, I fought to survive. From Grace's perspective, I must have seemed like someone who lived life on my own terms. But I wanted her to know that the world outside wasn't always a walk in the park either. For the first time in our lives, we, as sisters, were open about what we thought of each other. "Natalie, you're amazing." Grace complimented me for the first time. I think this was the moment I finally felt like a real sister to Grace. After some time passed since the wedding, Grace did something she'd never considered doing before. To support her, I went with Dad to Grace's company. "Dad, I think the company won't grow if things stay as they are." I took a leap and told Dad I thought his methods were outdated. Of course, Dad got furious, his face turning beet red. "You're saying the way I've been doing things is wrong?" Surprisingly, Mom chimed in. "Isaac, the younger generation is taking over. We should consider their opinions. Not only will we help, but we also ask for your cooperation." Thanks to the backing from also Grace's husband and his family, Dad relented, and Grace got involved in the business. My worries turned out to be unfounded, and I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. With Grace's strong insistence, there was a shift from old ways of thinking to adapt to modern times. "See, you can speak up." "I can't let Natalie outdo me," Grace said, her face brimming with confidence. I have a feeling that the company is on a path to becoming even better. I also started having more family interactions with Grace. Today, we have to entertain an important client. Can I use your place, Natalie? This became Grace's go-to phrase. Now in a business context, she's an important client, and I never cut corners, whether it's for family or not. Yes, we'll prepare everything. Delivering the best service is the life I chose, on my own terms.